What is up, YouTube? So today we're going to be jumping back into the Smite guides. We haven't done these in a while. We've had little things putting it off. We've been pretty busy. So we're jumping back into it, and we're going to go right into the most common question I get, which is, where the hell do I start as a person in a conquest match? So this is going to obviously be from my point of view as a jungler, but I'm going to try to go over the possible starts for you, meaning where you can start lane-wise. Pretty much every role will get covered. Most are pretty straightforward and aren't too crazy, and you'll understand them pretty quickly. But as a jungler, I think you affect it the most, really, because you kind of have to decide whether you want to go to this mid lane and whether you want to go to the solo lane. You have to know where your support really wants to start, whether he wants to start in the duo lane, or he wants to start in the mid lane, or he wants to start in the solo lane. There's a lot of options. And then it goes a little bit deeper. That start goes past what lane do I want to start in. It goes to a point of, I'm going to pause the gameplay. It goes to a point of, what lanes am I going to win? And then if I lose or win that lane, what am I going to do after that? And that's what we want to cover here. That is the idea. And that is what I want most of you guys to understand when you come out of this video is, while you may lose push in a lane, there's almost always some counterplay, some way to make up for it, some way to even out what has happened. And that's what you have to remember, and that's what you need to learn. Really, that's what it comes down to. So with this matchup, it is Ra, Nija versus Serket and Thoth. Realistically, the clear could go either which way because we pulled pressure. We pretty much lost grouping up creeps and lost the lane, pretty much lost the pressure in the lane we needed to clear, but it ended up being a stalemate. So out of a stalemate, you almost always want to go and grab your speed buff as a jungler, simply because you can move around the map faster, and this allows you to control the map better. It really does, and I think it's a little bit underrated by a lot of players who don't understand this. Now, once you grab your own buff in a stalemate situation where the other team went to their buffs, you go to your buffs. Usually you want to grab the smalls on fires because they actually add up very quickly. You don't really want to push past that. You don't want to solo the big creep, especially with someone standing in front of you. Plus, this wins pressure for your solo laner. This is an option. This is not something you have to do. This is something you can do. It works out very well when the solo laner is in a lane, just in a 1v1. Works out really well because you can gain pressure. Now, because you gain that pressure, you're invading their speed, or their blue, sorry. Their speed is already down. You know that. You know he doesn't have his blue buff because he didn't pick it up. We just saw the solo laner. That's going to happen a lot. Most of the time, unless there's other solo laner loses the lane, they are going to go to those fire creeps. They're going to try to get the smalls, and they're going to try to go back to lane. It's really easy to spot that blue buff, whether it's been dropped or not. And in this case, it hasn't, so we're going to invade. But, once again, as I said, there's always a response to whatever is happening in the game right now. While Smite is very based on who can win pressure, who can do this, and in ranked and casuals, it's a lot more important because the other players, most players in most situations, don't know what the fuck to do. That is the problem. They don't know what to do when someone takes their speed buff. They usually just stand in the lane. They don't know what to do if someone goes and invades their red. If they're out of pressure, they don't have the pressure. If they have creeps in front of them, they just kind of freeze up. Don't know what to do. They don't get farm elsewhere, which is really, really important to do. So, we got blue, but at the same time, the other team's mid lane has gone and taken buffs on the left side of the map. So, with this being said, you know there's buffs missing. You know you've essentially traded out. We do have a gold lead, which is based around the fact that we have pressure. We grab more buffs. We got the fire creeps, but they will trade out and get more than likely end up with an even amount of buffs. See, now they have a gold lead. It's just the way it's going to work out for this early game. Make sure you grab your own blue buff and focus on that. Here we have another matchup with it should be leaning more towards our side of pressure. We'll be against an Awilix Poseidon who do have really, really good pressure, but with Fenrir, you can actually win the push in the mid lane. And when I say the push, I don't mean the creep push. I mean, you can be on their side of the map. You can push up past that middle invisible line and get the auto attacks on the creeps. That's mainly because Fenrir is super aggressive early. It's just, you can jump on people and walk away. While Awilix also does a lot of damage, it's just the fact that you get a lot of poke with a Scylla Fenrir combo and the blue stone and everything, and a little bit of autos you can get in. So what you want to do to maintain this pressure, which is really key for when you start in the mid lane, you want to push up into the lane. You want to push up and show that you're not afraid to fight. And a lot of the time, especially right now, I don't know what it is, but in casuals and ranked, people are very afraid to take poke. They're very afraid to fight, and they don't know their matchups when they should win. So against really good players, A Poseidon and an Awilix is probably going to win this pressure clear hard. But because these players don't really know the situation, they don't know really what's going on, and they don't know the matchups, we get pressure here. So that is something to remember when you're running around a map, when you're looking at your matchups in the beginning of the game. You can be overly aggressive in most situations if you aren't playing against very, very good players. If you're playing against your average player, that person doesn't understand how being aggressive affects their pressure on a map very quickly, and right there is a good example of it. Now, with the pressure, we invade their speed buff. When you're looking at invading a buff, it's very, very important. When you're looking at invading a buff, if you out pressure them with a full wave like we just did, you're going to get the speed buff without them making it there in time. 99% of the time, you will clear the speed buff without them getting anywhere near defending it. Now, if you clear a wave and the other team clears almost a whole wave, say there's 3 archers up with barely any health left, they have the potential to follow you, and that is where it can get a little risky. Now, if you think that's going to happen or that does happen, go do your own buffs, take the safe way out. If it does happen and you aren't ready for it and you're still invading their speed buff, it's okay to grab the small creep, loop around, do the fire creeps, maybe even do the smalls if they keep following you, and you'll hit level 2 off of grabbing those 4 small creeps. And that's all you need. That's enough for you to go back to lane, get pressure, and go and do your own buffs right after that wave. Now, with that being said, we do kind of the same thing. Out of the jungle, we go and grab blue buff, simply because we do have really good clear with Fenrir. My Wukong is getting some pressure, and this will allow us to go and control our own buffs on the other side of the map. We do know that the mid lane is once again missing, and they've probably gone for red buffs, either their own or ours, and that disrupts control on the right side of the map. So with both of these starts that you've seen so far, you're essentially grabbing full control on one side of the map, or attempting to, while losing some control on the duo side of the map. A lot of cases, this can really fuck up your duo lane if they're not very good, but at the same time, it can give you so much pressure out of the jungle, and you have timers, and you're able to later regain the duo side of the map just through wards, that it works out very well in your favor, and that is something to remember. Alright, in this game, we are Nemesis. Our mid lane is a Nuwa, who, right away, if you know anything about Nuwa, doesn't have the best clear at level 1. You're going against a Raven and a Vulcan. Now, most of you are not going to know the Raven matchups. The Raven matchup is actually very scary. If you're playing any god with no mobility at level 1, like Nemesis, where I take the 2, I don't have the dash, or say Hunbats, where you're taking the 2 and you don't have the leap, or really anything that can't instantly move, any matchup that has decent clear in the mid lane out of the mage, like a Vulcan, and is matched up with a Raven who's going to have Sunder on that early pressure, you will die if you walk into that wave. Raven will not give a shit. Raven will go on you right away, and they will just fuck you up. So I tend to avoid that matchup unless I have heavy control or I have heavy mobility, like a Susano or something that can just clear and get the fuck out and not have to worry about shit. But when you have a Nuwa, I'm usually avoiding that wave when the other team has pressure. So in this situation, I have my Nuwa mid, I have my Anubis in solo lane, and my duo is starting in duo. We haven't talked about duo too much, so I want to hit that before we go into this. Support can start in whatever lane you want. You kind of really have to communicate, like, hey, I want to go here, or hey, I want to go there. In a ranked and a casual game, your ADC is almost always not going to understand the game well enough to take a loss, to sit under the tower and live, to lose buffs and live. So in ranked and casuals, I do recommend the support starts there, just for the fuck of, I guess not the fuck up, just for the sake of your ADC not getting tilted, not being confused, and not getting farmed. Now, if you're with a good ADC, you're queuing with your friend who knows what the fuck they're doing, whatever, you can start wherever the hell you want, but you have to look at matchups. You have to understand, we have a Terra here who's not going to clear that well. They have a Kumba who's also, clear's going to be okay. It's not going to be great. But there's nowhere Terra could have gone that would have been much better for the team, so it makes sense to start there. And it's going to make sense to start there in almost every situation. If you don't know your matchups, if you don't understand your clear as a support, just start in the duo lane. ADC, always going to start in the duo lane. Solo, pretty much always going to start in the solo. So when you look at where people are starting, it's really where the jungle goes and where the support goes. And as I've stated multiple times, as a support, just start in the duo lane, unless you know what the fuck you're doing. And then if you know what you're doing, look at your matchups, start wherever you know you can get pressure, and take control of the side of the map you get pressure on. Now that we're past that, I'm a Nemesis. We covered not staying near Raven. We covered we would lose mid lane. So I'm going to go to the Anubis' lane, who has a lot of pressure, who can clear away very easily. Maybe in this matchup, the Bologna could be a little bit risky for the Anubis to just stand there. But with me there, pretty much guarantees clear, guarantees pressure, and it allows us to go and look at invading their buffs. When I get full pressure, especially like this, where it's just full on pressure, I'm going to take the other team's buffs because I know my mid lane is losing and the other team is going to take our buff. A lot of cases, the mid lane, as you can see right now, they are heading into red. You can really see where people go super easy from this position. You can see they're heading to red. They could have gone to speed. They could have taken our speed in blue. They could have taken fire creeps, and we could have just taken 2 buffs and left it at that. It is very, very scary with a god like an Anubis to do this if they do go for your speed buff, because the Anubis, after killing 2 buffs, pathing back, will more than likely die if the other team is aggressive at all. With a warrior, it's way less scary, so I do recommend playing warriors in this meta for damn sure. Anything that you're comfortable on tanking some damage and still not falling behind in your lane. So, we're grabbing buffs here. The other team's taking our red, as we stated. So once again, it's another game where we lose full control of duo side early. This is not a big deal because they're not going to go for that early Gold Fury. It's honestly not worth it. It's not worth the risk. It's very easy to be stolen. It's really hard to actually get done easily, especially in a ranked or casual game where you don't have a lot of coordination. So definitely do recommend the start. I like having control. I like being able to get fire creeps. Plus, if the person contests, you have the ability to kill. I missed an auto, so I don't get to kill here. Actually, I don't even know if he would have died. It would have been really fucking close. But we get pressure. We get control. We maintain control of the left side of the map. We get the waves pushed in. We look for fire creeps. We look for our own buffs. We maintain timers, and we look to invade those buffs after on their second spawns, simply because we don't have the exact timers on our red, our purple, and their red, and their purple. Easy as that. So now you understand that as a jungler, you can start in mid, you'll have winning and losing lanes. You can start in solo, and you'll have winning and losing lanes. I do want to cover, it's not very often I go to solo lane in ranked right now, just because I don't really try to strategize too much. I just try to have fun, if that makes sense. So if you go into solo lane, and the other team has a solo lane matchup, and they send their jungler there that wins, I usually tend to avoid it. That's why I don't have any videos of it. If you do go there, if you decide I want to start solo, I'm playing with my solo lane friend, the other team's like, hey, we're going to start solo as well, and they outclear you, they will go for your buffs if they outclear you very hard. If they do not outclear you very hard, they'll probably grab fires and go to their buffs, which is fine. You can play around that. You'll lose a little bit. You can gain it back on the other side of the map, on the duo side of the map. You just have to focus on that. Make sure you grab your own buffs. Make sure you keep pressures up as much as possible. Go grab your own buffs after that. Now, if for some reason you start in solo lane, you're going to lose the matchups, and you learn it. You realize it. You learn the fact that you are going to lose this lane. You're not going to have pressure right away. You can grab smalls on your blue and your speed, or your speed and your blue, or just your blue and then go to lane, and you don't take as much of a deficit. Those small creeps on all the buffs actually add up really quickly, and that is something that I want to mention as a duo, as the ADC. If you're ever in a game where your support does not start with you, he doesn't want to start in lane with you for whatever fucking reason, you can do the smalls on your red, the smalls on your purple, pass safely into your lane, and you won't lose as much on those buffs. The other team won't gain as much, and you won't lose as much. It actually is a really big deal, and it's super underrated. You don't see it happen a lot in ranked and casuals with your average player, your pro player, your really high-level player. They know this stuff. They understand it. But you need to realize that every little win in Smite adds up. The game generally gets decided on a big fight, but to get to that big fight with a lead, or with being in the XP range you want to be in, having the gold you need, having the items you need, it adds up from the little things that you gain on the map, and those small creeps are one of those little things that you need to remember. I hope this video helps you guys a little bit. I do understand it's a lot of talking, and it might be a little bit harder to process, but the basic idea of Smite right now is win the lane and gain pressure on the side of the map and take the other team's farm, or lose the lane and make sure you trade farm somewhere on the map. For everything the other team takes, you need to take something as well, and that's as easy as it breaks down. Now, if you want to get as many wins as possible, which is pretty much why I'm teaching you guys this, I want you guys to win, I want you guys to do better, I want you guys to understand the game better, play the gods that clear very well. Susano is amazing at clear. You've got Poseidon in the mid lane who can clear really well. You have Janus, you have Vulcan, you have a lot of very high clear gods in the solo lane. You've got gods like Bellona and Osiris who clear very well and have a lot of pressure early, even Hercules. And then out of the duo lane, you've got Guardians that are a little bit harder for the casual player to play, like Sylvanas, who clear amazingly, Khepri, who are very easy to... Khepri's an easy god to play and very easy to clear. And that will give you the pressure you want to go ahead and take buffs on the other side of the map. always remember when taking buffs, you need to know where the fuck the other team is in case they collapse on you with 4 people. That is something you must avoid in this meta, because that can really just fuck up your day in a game. Hopefully this guide helps you guys. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm trying to teach you, what I'm trying to show you guys that just goes missed in a lot of games. If there's anything that you feel I missed, please drop it in the comments below. I'll try to respond. I'll try to help you guys out. I'll answer any questions that are relevant to the topic and the content. And if there's any other guides that are specific guides similar to this that you want to see, drop those in the comments below. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching the video.